vap, vap, gille, gille, klap, klap, kysse, kysse, kras, kras, vulle, vulle, vap.
Jungledyret Hugo. As an animated feature made outside of the mainstream animation countries like the US and Japan, this is one of those films that is often known by several other names in English. Some may recognize it more as either Go Hugo Go or Hugo the Jungle Animal, but it is more commonly known as Jungledyret Hugo. Originally began as a lullaby that filmmaker Flemming Quiet Moller created for his son Carl, little did they know that their original song would eventually grow to become the biggest name in Danish animation. Which, to be fair, what else would have that title anyways? Help, I'm a Fish? Ronald the Barbarian? Then again, if nothing else, we can always rely on John Dillerman. I don't think anyone can ever forget a guy like that! Anyways, what I mean is that after making his theatrical debut, Hugo went on to become a prominent franchise, complete with 2 sequels and a small TV show with 13 episodes. Now, before I get into this movie, I just want to clarify that this is not an easy film to find. There's no official way to watch it online, and the DVDs are extremely rare to find, especially the English ones. The best that I could find is just this sub-version from Daily Motion that a Hugo fan uploaded in 5 different parts. Not the most ideal way to watch a movie, but better to make the most out of this request. So now that we're heading to the jungles of Denmark, is Hugo meant to be a big name in the big city? Or is it best for the whole movie to stay in the jungle along with him? Let's find out. The story. One important thing to note about Jungledyret Hugo is that this is a very short animated film. Including the credits, the movie is about 70 minutes long. Okay, it doesn't sound like a big deal. I mean, even some of the best animated features like The Nightmare Before Christmas and Dumbo can be unnaturally short. As long as the writing is solid enough, it would know how to deliver a strong narrative with the small length it has. This statement is true, but I wouldn't say the same about Hugo. I'll give the filmmakers credit. They had a lot of ambition when making this movie, telling the story of a unique animal and his big journey to go back to his jungle home while lost in the big city of Copenhagen. They had a lot of ideas and did their best to deliver them all, but within the film's short running time, they end up biting off way more than they could chew. The biggest problem with Hugo is that it doesn't have time to properly execute all of its ideas at once, valuing quantity over quality by including so many plot points. As soon as they happen or get introduced, they quickly move to the next scene, making them hollow and serve little purpose to the main story. And as consequence to all these little moments giving the bare minimum of significance, it results in the story as a whole to feel completely basic. This is simply a homeward-bound-like plotline of a character being misplaced and has to go back home while avoiding all the obstacles that surround their new environment. It's a familiar narrative that's been repeated so many times before, yet Hugo doesn't do much to make this one stand out from the others, giving nothing for the audience to attach to along the journey and leaving it open to feel boringly predictable from beginning to end.
Jamen, hvordan slap du ud af buret?
Der kom nogen for at fange mig, og så smuttede jeg fra dem.
Jamen, du var jo allerede fanget.
De er efter mig alle sammen. Det ved ikke hvorfor.
Also, a lot of the humor is left to be desired. For the most part, a lot of the gags are just the typical Looney Tunes style jokes, but there are times when it does remind us that Danish humor can sometimes be vastly different compared to the jokes I'm used to in North America. But you know what's the worst part about the story? You know what's worse than its dull plot? The ideas they had are actually kind of good. There was some potential within what they wanted to do to make the plot more unique and engaging. They got all these ideas for fun characters, special situations that Hugo would get himself in, and moments that could help make the feature more immersive to get the viewers sucked into Hugo's adventure. And yet, as solid as they could possibly be, instead of only choosing some to have the time to expand them or give the feature an extra 30 minutes to flesh all of them out, they ultimately went with cramming them all in just 70 minutes, wasting their potential and making them feel less significant than intended. There is a legitimate story that would have been fun in Hugo if done right, a unique plot about a rare animal lost in the big city. Unfortunately, that's not the story that could be told in just over an hour. The animation. Okay, so it's animation from Denmark. Is it just gonna have some of that weird abstract style often found in European Oh my god, what is this piece of beauty? Danish fans already know what Hugo could do. But as you've probably seen throughout this review, the movie has some gorgeous animation, like the kind that could be fairly comparable to Disney during that time. Granted, I will say now that it doesn't do anything unique to truly stand out and offer something visual that no other film has done before, but it's the craftsmanship that is admirable. It's how smooth the movements are to give them a good flow, and how clear their emotions can be while maintaining some subtlety. Rather it be to present Hugo getting himself out of a sticky situation, or to show how he feels when he misses his home and when getting close to Rita.
Stærkt, mand. Du er ret vaks, hva'?
On top of that, with the way it wants to present how big the world around Hugo can be, the film provides a large variety of animals, people, and more to give a lot of materials for the animators to work with, and they all manage to bring them to life in a way that is believable and anatomically correct, while giving some room for creativity to make them more animated and have their expressions be livelier. For the designs, there's a lot of qualities where they were inspired by the style of Disney and has that distinct look that is considered commonplace for the early 1990s, but it luckily benefits from the advantages of the style that adds more detail and give the freedom to go three-dimensional for the camera to move around the characters or to capture them in complex angles. As for the backgrounds, technically it's just a typical big city from the perspective of a small animal, but the area is nicely painted and does its job to present a dark and dangerous environment that feels unpleasant and out of place for someone like Hugo, while the jungle is filled with vibrant colors and the trees are set up to be a fun-filled area for Hugo to swing around. On a side note, there are some rare moments where CGI was used for the backgrounds to make the scenes more emotionally effective and to spice up the intensity, like in the sewer scene. If there is one thing that I find to be a bit off with the visuals of Hugo, it's that I don't know if it's just me, but I sometimes feel like Hugo's size often changes. There are times when it can feel like the movie constantly grows and shrinks Hugo for their own convenience, making him the size of a monkey and able to hold fruit with just one hand, or have him be small enough to be the size of a little fox or even a doll. I know, it sounds like a weird nitpick, but I can't help but feel like I'm always questioning the size of Hugo. But regardless of how small he actually is, the animation will leave the biggest positive impact on the movie. The characters. Like I said before, the movie has a big cast with a wide variety of characters included. However, with only a 70-minute running time, there's no room for any of them to present themselves as legitimate characters that matter. Their only purpose is to be obstacles to get in the way of the protagonist or to lead him to the next scene. Unfortunately, this also affects the main characters where they don't even have time to develop their personalities or present themselves more than just their archetypes. With that said, let's start off with Hugo himself, who is considered an animal so rare that some could almost say he's one of a kind as this part koala, part monkey type creature. Now, if you're expecting that he would present some cool abilities or show off his uniqueness, you'd most likely be disappointed. Other than the fact that he could climb, the movie mainly uses his species as just an excuse to say that he's a rare animal. Other than that, he's just the typical out-of-place protagonist that just wants to go home who can sometimes be a smart aleck, although results may vary. There is also Rita, a young fox living in the streets that is the love interest to Hugo. Don't ask me why or how that chemistry was made, it just says that he has a crush on her and that's it. On the villain side, there is Isabella, who was like if you take Yzma from The Emperor's New Groove and made her a lot younger. And yet I can't help but find her to be pretty hot. Anyways, she's a diva that wants to be like the other big stars by owning a unique and rare pet so she could feature it in a movie and show it off to everyone with the help of her husband, movie mogul Conrad Kupman. Once that backstory is established and Hugo escapes from her hands, she just becomes the Wile E. Coyote type antagonist where she spends the rest of the movie trying to catch him. As for everyone else, again, there's a whole group of characters that have the potential to be memorable and contribute to the picture greatly if they had the chance. There are the monkeys that are Hugo's best friends, a zoo-raised lion that takes the King of the Jungle title too seriously, the purebred pampered poodle, the dangerous alley cat, the cook from the ship that was friendly to Hugo but is also kind of dumb, and many more. But again, those characters only get to appear in one scene or two if they're lucky, and that's it. They got great concepts that could help make the movie special or give it something to remember it by, but it just doesn't have the time to give them the proper attention needed to make them effective. Because it prioritizes putting out all of their ideas in one quick shot than to make those ideas strong, it also results in the characters to become a bland and quickly forgettable cast. The songs. Honestly, I feel a bit hesitant to count this as a musical. Yes, it is often described as one, but there's only 3 numbers throughout the film and that's it. Then again, this is probably the only moment where I can give the short running time some credit that, for a 70-minute film, 3 songs would be enough to count this as a musical. Now, before I get into them, I just want to clarify again that I watched the Danish version with English subtitles, which means that the songs I heard were in Danish as well, and since I don't speak the language, I have no idea what the lyrics are just by listening to them alone, nor do I even know the name of the numbers. But even in a language that I don't understand, the soundtrack is actually pretty good. Along with the score, 2 of the songs have this upbeat tropical sound that helps set the tone of the movie's theme and establishes that Hugo is a jungle creature. Even those songs have a good and fun beat to them that makes it easy to get into.
Jungledyret Hugo ræverne sikker sagt Wulle wulle vap vap Wow yeah Lukker fukken træerne og skræller dem med tæerne Wulle 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 vap
Hugo har svinger, så bliver jeg glad. Hugo har trommer på pander og gryder, det lyder dejligt.
The only exception is the third song that is a duet between Hugo and Rita that has more of a rock theme that's about riding a skateboard in the big city.
Igen er mit knus på det superskønne skateboard Se os, UBA.
The one thing I would criticize in the context of the movie is regarding the lyrics. Now I know I just said that I don't know what they're saying, but I'm not talking about those lyrics. I mean the ones I do understand through the subtitles. I get it, directly translating a song from one language to another does not work well. The words would need some alterations in order to make it properly function for the song. In this case, the lyrics in the subtitles are mostly just describing what's happening as if the characters somehow have to explain everything that they're seeing and doing. In other words, if you read the songs, they're literally singing about what's happening on screen.
Det er mig, og jeg laver mad. Det er på steg og flæskesteg, så maven bliver glad.
Der kommer en bil.
Drejer vi om hjørnet I overlægger sti
Maybe the actual English version did something a little more clever than the subtitles, but for everything else, they make the songs the more enjoyable parts of the movie. Forget the real jungle, analyzing this movie alone can feel like a whole jungle adventure in itself. Jungledyret Hugo is a film that is filled with great surprises and a lot of problems. With a 70-minute running time, it focuses on quickly throwing as many concepts as possible instead of properly developing them, resulting in a predictably basic story and a bunch of characters that have little personality and sometimes little screen time. Then again, Hugo does have some tricks up his sleeve to deliver some pleasant surprises, including some very impressive animation and some enjoyable songs. I don't think you'd be missing much if you live without seeing this film, but if you are curious about animated features from other parts of the world and you want to see what Denmark has to offer, then it wouldn't hurt to try this one. And that's probably the best thing to say about Jungledyret Hugo. It's harmless. The writing is certainly left to be desired, but there are still some good elements to it that does provide some form of substance to make it feel like watching this isn't a waste of time. There are probably some better Danish animated films out there, but this one is not a bad one.
Hey everyone, this is Animat, and I would like to go and give out a huge thanks to Gordon Rajani, whose amazing support on Patreon allowed him to get some amazing rewards, including this one, where he got to ask me to do a review of Jungledyret Hugo. Not really the best movie that I've seen, but then again, at least I can go and say that I've watched Jungledyret Hugo, and I am familiar with who Hugo is. Or at least in terms of the first movie, because you never know if in the future, maybe I'll review the sequels, maybe not, but who knows. But anyways, now that I am done with that film, it is now time that we shall go and move on to the animation hat. And by the way, before I get into the next one, I would just like to go and say that if you guys would like to be like Gordon Rajani and you would like to go and support my work and get some amazing rewards at the same time, including but not limited to watching my videos before anyone else, then all you have to do is go to patreon.com/animat. But at the same time, if you guys would like to go and suggest an animated film you would like me to review and I would put onto the animation hat, then all you have to do is write me an email at animatsreviews@gmail.com. So, now with that done, let's go and pick our next movie, which actually, was pretty quick. All right, almost a record. I don't know, I never count on these things. But anyways, the next review shall be... Oh! Well, this actually got interesting. You know, the funny thing is that I've already reviewed the prequel to this classic, but now we are going to go and jump immediately to the sequel to this classic. Now, I would definitely much rather watch the original itself, considering that it is a highly beloved Disney film, but then again, I did get a lot of requests from people asking me to look into this, so I'm sure that we could get something pretty interesting when we would go and at least return to the sea. Wait, what the fridge am I doing? This goes here. You stay.
Vulle, vulle, vap, vap, kille, kille, klap, klap, kysse, kysse, kras, kras, vulle, vulle, vap.